Hi guys! So today I thought of a cool idea and something else you can do to use up your paint skins. And it has to do with my Dreamcatcher idea with the painting. So this is a paint skin, and basically paint skins are when you do an acrylic pour and all the paint spills over the edges of the painting, you can pull it together and let it dry, and it'll create a really cool paint skin. So that's just the front and the back. And once this is dry, it's almost like a really cool stretchy piece of art. Now, another thing I found on Amazon, which was really cool, is they have colored wax thread. So in my previous Dreamcatcher video, I was just using embroidery floss, but I didn't realize that the wax threads came in all these beautiful different colors. And the reason why the wax thread is so great for dream catchers is that it'll kind of hold its position, and it's a little bit easier to work with for creating the webbing. So I'm super excited about this. I'll have a link in the description for these. They're super pretty colors, so I'm excited to use them. And I also got these hoops, which will also have a link in the description. I'm going to move this guy over a bit. So I wanted to do with the paint skin is I'm going to glue this hoop to this one, and you can see it makes a bit of a moon, crescent moon. And I'm going to take, once I have that glued together, I'm going to take this paint skin and we're going to wrap it over and stretch it over the hoop, and then I'm going to create a cute little dream catcher on the inside of the circle. So I thought that would be something fun to do. You could use any colored paint skin with, you know, corresponding colored waxed thread for your dream catcher. So we're going to give this a whirl. I have my handy super glue, which is in gel format, so it doesn't move and it's not runny like other super glues. So I kind of like it. Oh yeah, I gotta shake it well before I use it. And I just like that it holds in place. Now I'm using a bit of parchment paper because nothing seems to stick to parchment paper. So it's a great thing to use. See if you can kind of see that it's just kind of sticking to the top and the side of this. And this super glue dries really fast. So I'm going to push that against there. Now with regular dream catchers like this, they usually use string to bind the two hoops together, but I'm going to super glue them because I want to put this paint skin over the sides of the hoop. So this just takes kind of like 10 seconds to stick on there, and hopefully that's going to hold really good. I'm going to leave it, and then we'll come back and we'll start creating the paint skin portion. So I've let this sit for a few minutes, and the glue is holding, but it's not the sturdiest, but it will be once I glue the paint skin to the hoops. I think that'll add stability. So now what I gotta do is I want to figure out what part of the paint skin I want for my crescent moon. And I kind of want to use these darks and grays in it. So I need to line it up so I can cut the paint skin and create a really cool pretty moon. But I want to leave enough on the edges so that I can fold them over the hoop. Obviously the paint skin will be on top. I'm just using it as a guide to see what I will be using for this crescent moon. Oop, Gotta watch out for the glue. Because it can glue skin, so you gotta be careful. And I kind of like all these cells right in here. I think that looks really cool in this portion here. And with these Dreamcatcher hoops, they hang from a string, so you do see them. It will flip around. So I'm going to cut this out for one side, and then I'll try and figure out another part of the paint skin for the other side. And I did get glue on me. Yeah, you gotta be really careful you don't get that super glue on you. And I think right here I have enough that I can fold it over to glue that side on top. So I'm gonna grab my self-healing mat and just slip it under, because I'm gonna use an X-Acto knife in order to cut the paint skin. And these self-healing mats are really great when you're trying to cut things, because they will kind of self-heal, which is pretty cool. Now, everything inside of here will not be there, so it's something to remember, because that's where the Dreamcatcher will be. So I'm going to cut it a little bit away, like a 1/4 inch away from the hoop. It doesn't have to be the perfect circle shape. This side, these are really thin edges, so I just got to be careful. You could use scissors too, but it's kind of, you could draw the line where you want to cut, and then use scissors to cut your paint skin as well instead of an X-Acto knife. I might just pull that piece off a bit. Now, towards the center of my paint skin is where the paint is thicker, because that's where the most amount of paint pooled when I created it. But it'll all work. And I thought it would be really cool that you can use paint skins to stretch around hoops and stuff for a Dreamcatcher. Well, there's a big glob of paint on there, that's why it's sticking. And like so. Now I'm going to take my self-healing mat out because I don't want to get super glue on the mat. This is parchment paper, so if super glue gets on that, it won't hurt anything, because it's just parchment paper. And I don't think the super glue would stick to the parchment paper, but it might, so just be careful. Alright, so that is my design right there, and what I need to do is I'll pull this out from underneath and plop my paint skin on top. And I want it as close to this edge as I can get, because I love these cells right here. So I've lined it up, and I'm going to flip it over so that I can glue the paint skin to the hoops. I'm just going to grab it from an edge and hold, and carefully flip it over. There's still a bit of glue there. I might move it. Oh, looks like it's stuck here. Oh no, my rings didn't actually glue there. But that's okay. I'm going to move this down just slightly. So at least I know that the cells I want are in that area, and I can proceed to use my super glue. This will stay nice and flat so that the paint skin will be nice and tight, and I'm going to glue the paint skin to the hoops with my super glue. Since this didn't really stick all that well, I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to apply the glue to the bottom of the hoop. I just like that this super glue is not runny, it's a gel format, so it stays in place nice. And when I get close to my fingers, I'll just be very careful. Leave a little space until this is glued. Just like so. Just gonna push it down. Like that. And then I'll do the big hoop and glue it. You could use other glues as well. I like this jelly super glue, but I mean there's lots of other types of glue you can use to glue your paint skin to your hoops. And there's lots of different sizes of hoops. I went with this smaller one, whereas the other one I was a larger one for the painting. And just apply a light coating and make sure you don't get any on your fingers. Then I'm just going to push it down. Careful not to get any on me. And voila, that's going to glue in there. Now I also, you'll see, is I want to pull this paint skin and round it over the edge to hide the hoop. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut another piece, another crescent moon from this same paint skin and hide the edges. So it'll be actually a paint skin that's going to come exactly where the hoop is, and I'll glue it down to hide the edges that I'm going to glue over the hoop. So it should look all nice and complete. And what I might have to do, I can use scissors, is I might just have to snip. That's my cat. He wants attention. I might just have to snip some. Can you hear him? He sometimes sounds like he's saying hello. Come here, Charcoal. He's so cute. So I might just have to snip some little lines into the edge so that it's easier for me to fold over and glue it, because it is a circle. And then what I'll do is I'll cut out this circle in the middle and fold this over. So I'm going to go about gluing all the edges and folding them over. So that didn't go too bad. You might want to wear gloves, as I did get quite a bit of glue on my fingers, but at least I didn't glue any of my fingers together. Here is, it's still wet, I haven't really let it dry, but it's looking pretty good. The paint skin is nice. Now what I'm going to do is cut the inside circle so that I can stretch the paint skin the opposite way from the edges. So I'm going to have to cut basically another, like about a 1/4 inch inside so that I could fold it back over the hoop the opposite way. You just follow along the hoop edge like so. I'm leaving a little bit extra here so I can wrap it over, because this is where the two hoops come together. And there you have it. Cut the little inside one out, and now I can just slowly go around, and I'll have to cut definitely some little snippets in the inside, but I can fold it over. And you'll see that your paint skins are rather stretchy, which is kind of nice. You can pull and stretch them over, like so. And just work your way around the whole inside hoop, just like you did the outside hoop, pulling and stretching and gluing it over to the back of the paint skin. And then we will have a really pretty crescent moon, which we can do the dream catcher inside of after. So I'm going to work the inside hoop and get that all ready and glued down. And there you have it, a really pretty crescent moon. Now you can tweak the edges a bit because the paint skin is quite manipulable, so you can push little bumps in and really just kind of make sure that it's all nice and tight. I'm going to take this off. I think that looks pretty cool with your paint skin. Now the only other issue is the back, so it's completely unfinished. And if I was to hang this and it was to twirl, you would see an unfinished back part. Now I can't fold, if I was to cut a piece for this side, I can't fold it over because it would leave these edges. So I'm going to cut a piece that's just basically a crescent moon and just glue it for aesthetics to this side. Whereas this paint skin, I fold it over so it would hold the hoops together and be really nice and sturdy and look really cool. You might find that you might get a little bit of droopiness here. And I'm thinking what I might do is I'll cut this next piece of paint skin to the shape I need. And then I might even, you could even stuff a bit of stuffing in here to kind of make your moon a little bit poofy, which I don't think is a bad thing. What I should have done is even cut this paint skin a little wider, and before gluing the hoop, maybe glue the middle hoop down, but before gluing the outside hoop I should have pulled really hard on the paint skin to wrap it over. So that's just a little tip for if you're going to create your own. It would, if you want it to be really taut, so like super tight, maybe just glue the middle hoop first and then pull the paint skin over, because paint skin is very stretchy as long as it's not dry and brittle. I leave mine inside of layers of parchment paper, and that way it keeps the moisture in the paint skin, and it also, so it won't dry out, and then you can manipulate it, you can stretch it. Like you can see how stretchy this paint skin is. I'll use this piece. So you can really pull the paint skins and wrap it over the edges of things, and it still holds its viscosity. But I stretched that one out. So that's what I should have done, but I don't even mind. I'm just kind of pivoting now that I'm going to make a poofy moon. So I'm going to add a little bit of stuffing in there and kind of make it poof out, which I think will be pretty cool too. It'll be kind of like a poofy, neat moon. And I'll glue this side down. So first I have to figure out what portion I want for the other side. And I think I might pick over here. I'm not too worried about in here because I kind of was able to wrap the paint skin all the way around. So I'm just going to cut it to a point where I have to hide these edges. So I don't need, and I don't need to wrap the paint skin around, so I don't need quite as much. But if I work with it right about here, I'm just going to make sure I have enough paint. Hopefully I have enough paint skin. I can stretch it a little bit too. Right on the edge there, I think. So I'm going to grab grab a Sharpie or a pen, and that way I can draw the edge of the hoop, and I'll just cut just inside that edge. I could probably just use a Sharpie, but I don't want to kind of get ink or Sharpie on the sides of my hoop. Okay, I'm going to use the scissors to cut it. And since I was going on the outside of the hoop, I'm just going to cut slightly on the inside of my tracing, because I don't really want the ink color, and I'm not wrapping it over the edges. For the most part, if you're using up all the same colored paint skin, it should kind of blend into itself. I guess if you want to be super particular, these hoops came with a whole bunch of hoops. I could have just used another hoop and double checked, because it did come with quite a few. So I can just make sure that it's where I'm cutting is good. So if you want to be super accurate, you could just use one of the other hoops to cut the paint skin. And even these little pieces you can use for jewelry and a whole bunch of other things, so I don't usually throw them out. I usually keep them. Some pieces are just too tiny to use for anything. But there's lots of collage you could use them for. But that is going to be the other side in order to hide. Let's move it around a bit. Just in order to hide where all the edges folded over. I think that's going to work really good. Alright, I grabbed some stuffing, and I think what I'm going to do is glue a little. I did grab my Mod Podge too, and I'll glue the edges down going back a little ways, and then I'll put the stuffing inside where I want to make my moon a little bit poofy. So I'm just going to glue on the edge of the hoops very carefully, not to get any in the center. And I'm only going to go a short way so that I can stuff the stuffing into the corners of my moon. Now I'll peel back the moon and place it in place. Just trying to stretch a little bit. Oh, that's not good. Got a little bit on there. I'm going to use the paintbrush on the fingers. Now I'm not going to worry if there's a bit of edge like this hanging yet. I will come back and trim it and fix it. So I'm just trying to get that edge that I glued down with the super glue. That way I can actually stuff stuffing in here and kind of make the moon a little bit poofy, which I think is going to look really cute and add to the whole piece. So that's going to take a few minutes, I think. Let's just see. Let's try. I got the paintbrush just so I can push the stuffing into the corners. So you're going to see how much, look right there, how much the paint skin can actually poof up and stuff. That's pretty cool. I want to be very careful that I don't push any through the paint, because I mean that is possible to push your paintbrush through the paint, so you don't want to do that. Oops. Okay, so I have completed my moon, and I really like how it turned out. There's little parts that I can fix up and stuff, but for a first time I think it's pretty cool. I love how it's poofy. So all I did was I just used the end of a paintbrush and was stuffing it in there. And it's really solid and secure, and everything's glued in there really, really good. Part of that package that you saw that was wax string is this really pretty light gray thread. So I think this is what I'm going to use for my dream catcher inside the circle, because it just goes with the moon, and you know, it's a nice pretty color. And I also have my beads from before that I could add, although I don't think the colors really work with what I'm doing, so I might have to find a different bead for it. Either way, because this is not your regular dream catcher, normally when people do crescent moon dream catchers, they have the option to run the string here or inside, but they can go around the edges of the hoop. When you do dream catchers with paintings or paint skins, you don't have the option to run your thread around the hoop, obviously, because the paint is there. So I need to pull off, just like in my painting one, I have to pull off enough string that I can do the foundation work of the dream catcher, because I need to thread it through the painting. So to do that, I just kind of measure by putting the string around the circle loosely, and then I give it a little bit extra. You could even go around twice. I did find last time it gave me extra string, but it's better to have extra than not enough. So I'll go around twice like that, and this is the point kind of where I would have to pull this string and thread it through. So to keep this mark, I'm just going to use one of these little things. I'll just kind of twist it around for a sec, so I know that that's kind of where I want to end when I thread this through. So you're going to need a little needle, and it's pretty simple. You just thread the wax thread through the needle like so, and it's just kind of like sewing. I'm gonna start down here. Now you want to decide at the beginning how many points you want for your foundation. So a good rule of thumb is I go here, here, opposites, here, here, opposites, and then halfway in between. So that'll give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. If you had a really big dream catcher, you would obviously have way more points around your circle, but this one isn't too big, so we can do 8. I could just work it with less, but I think 8 will work really good symmetrically and stuff. So right here on this side, I could go around the loop, because this is basically a hoop here, but not when I go on the inside of the painting. I'm going to start at the very bottom, and I'm going to thread from the back side. So you can choose whichever side you want. I mean, it's up to you. I like both sides for the moon. I think they both look cool. But I'm going to start by threading it from this side through. And I guess I should look what I'm doing on the other side. Because you got to make sure you don't hit the hoop that's underneath the painting, or the paint skin. So I'm going to thread it through and pull the string all the way until I kind of reach where that point was with this little stick. And we'll just keep this, the rest of this thread attached to finish the dream catcher. Now I'm going to just kind of tie a little knot with the thread so that this point will stay in place. So just tie a knot like so. And that way this will not keep pulling through, and this will just stay as the foundation points for your dream catcher. I'm going to make sure you guys are in focus because I'm going to be lifting up the dream catcher for the most part. There we go. And holding it up basically. So now that I have my first point here, I'm going to move to the next point right here, which is halfway between the very edge, like this and like this. You could measure these out, you could make marks, you can definitely make them super perfect and like measure them all the way, but I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm pulling it through, there's a big loop here, and I'm just pulling the thread through, and what I want to do is I want to go back through this loop. So I'm just going to take the needle and go back, and you're going to see it makes a little loop here. That is going to be the border foundation for the dream catcher. That's what we're working on. And I'm always going from under the same way when I thread this gray thread through. So I want to go in from the bottom. So I'm just going to eyeball this again and make sure kind of in the right spot. From the bottom up. So I want to do the same. And so I have my little loop, and then I thread it through, and I pull it tight. I want to make sure that those edge loops are nice and tight. And the nice part about the wax thread is it really holds its structure. You're going to see here, I don't really have to hold it. When I pull it tight, it kind of holds itself for the most part. So I drop it back through the center, and I'm going to make another, come back up through the bottom, through the hoop in the middle, and pull it tight. Just like so. And keep going around the entire middle hoop, creating the big foundation point. Oh, and I'm going through something. It's probably stuffing, because I did stuff my moon. There we go. That's looking awesome. Just like that. So what I might do, because this is light on light, is I'm going to bring my self-healing mat up just so you guys can see a bit better. So I drop it in the middle, just eyeballing my other point, looking at the other side so I can see where I'm putting it through, and then threading it through from the bottom up, and then going through this middle hoop on the inside, just like so, and pulling it tight, nice and tight. Now over here is a little bit different. When I did the painting one, I was threading through the whole way. I don't know that I can thread through in between the two hoops. So here I might actually be able to do what most people do with the dream catcher, is go around the hoop. because my middle piece is going to be right about here. So I would go around the hoop here, come up through the bottom in the middle, just like so. And I'm going to make sure that these line up across from each other and that it's tight, just like that. So that's what normally people do for dream catchers, but with paintings I had to thread it through the paintings. Now the other point I have is between these two, so it's going to be like right about here, and I think I can put the thread through, so that's what I'm going to do. And drop it down the middle. Just check it. Oh, I don't think that's the right spot. Nice part is paint skins are a little bit forgiving and self-healing, so I can just kind of push them together. There we go. I'm going to come up through the painting. I got this hoop, and then I go inside that hoop and pull it nice and tight. Now when I get to the beginning, I'm going to just kind of go through the first hoop so that it goes together, just like so. And I will tie off on the back side here with my original string. So I'm just going to tie that piece like this, and that way I have created the foundation work for the dream catcher, and it's nice and tight. So now we take the rest of the thread and work it all the way inside. But these are pretty tight hoops for this huge roll. So I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to actually, get it through. So what I might have to do is I might have to unroll a whole bunch of thread off of this for my dream catcher and simply cut it, and it will make it easier for me to go through the hoops. If you had a much larger dream catcher, these spaces would be really, really big, and you could definitely go through the hoops and it wouldn't be too much of an issue. I could always try and just go around with my string like this to see how many times, but I'm just gonna pull off a whole bunch. Even if I have extra, it'll be okay. I can use it on a different, smaller dream catcher, but this way it's not on this cardboard thing. And having more than enough, I think that's way more than enough. So I'm going to cut it, and now I have all this string. So I'll just bundle it together. And this is what I'm going to use to go through, because this is much easier to go through these hoops than that cardboard. So in going in the same direction as before, what I'm going to do is I want to put the bundle of string through from the back side underneath through the first hoop. I'm just going to put that, and you could definitely put this way nicer. Put it together nicer, like coil it around your finger or something. I'm just going to bundle it like this. So you came from below in the first hoop. You have a hoop here, and you just put the rest of the bundle through that hoop. And I'm just going to try and position this in the middle of this hoop. Just like that. So it's nice, it's in the middle, and I can keep working doing the exact same thing, going around the entire foundation portion of the dream catcher. So I would go underneath pull it up through the hoop, like so. I have the hoop in the middle. I put the bundle through that hoop, like this, and I pull it tight, making sure that this one stays in the middle here, and I make sure that that loop is in the middle of this one. Just like that. And you want to pull it tight as you go all the way around your entire circle. It'll just totally help. And with this wax thread, it helps to, so when I pull it tight, it kind of stays. So that's really helpful. That's why people use it. I think I'm going to actually wrap this around a couple fingers just to tidy it up a bit. And then I'm going to proceed to go around and around the hoop. So you could do this to make it a little bit cleaner and easier probably to work with than just bundling it. So I'm just going to put it around 3 fingers, try not to get any knots in it, get really nice and loose, just so it's easier to work with. And I actually did cut quite a bit off, but it should be really easy to work with now. So just like that, it gives me a nice kind of bundle. And we'll see if it'll work. So this kind of came loose, so you want to loosen it and make sure that you get it in the middle of that loop. And you can hold it like so while you put your bundle through the next one. Bundles might not go through quite as planned even after I just did all that work, but once you get going, and so I want to go through the hoop this way. Once you get going, it's not too bad, and you just keep working it like so, holding it tight and going around. You're going to actually see some of the wax fall off there. So once you've completed your dream catcher, I just tied the thread off in the middle, and you can just cut that piece. Just like that. Now you can add beads too if you like. I just didn't want to add any for this one. And you can see all the wax that has been falling off of this dream catcher. So definitely the smaller the dream catcher, a little bit harder it is. The larger ones are a lot easier, but with this waxed thread it makes it pretty easy. And I think that looks super cute. And I'll just add some embellishments to the bottom. I did get some feathers online. I'm going to cut them. So like I said, there's links in the description for all the materials used, and I definitely greatly appreciate you guys using my links as I make a small commission. There's no extra cost to you, and it helps me out greatly. So thank you so much, guys. Okay, I got a few of these really cool feathers online, but they're mostly in the brown spectrum except for these ones, which are pretty cool. So I might use a few of these ones for the base of my dream catcher. I can also go in and add beads in here after, but if you wanted to add them in, you just have to cut the string and thread it through the whole way down, depending on where you want to put the beads. And you'll notice I cut a huge chunk off because there was just way too much string. This is from the tail, from the beginning piece, and that's what I can use to add my feathers and embellishment to the bottom. Okay, so I just glued the feathers to the bottom, added a little bead to make it look super cute. And my paint skin dream catcher is pretty much complete. Just make sure you guys can see that. Maybe I'll go this way with it. I think it looks super cute. I'm excited to take some photos of it. And something fun you can do with your paint skins to use them up, or you know, you could do like I did a teal and gold on the last one, which I had gotten a really pretty paint skin from. So I'll just show you guys, this is the paint skin from the Dreamcatcher painting I had done. So you don't have to go with the colors that I did here. I did kind of the moon colors. You could do definitely any kind of colors, and you can match your wax thread so that it all works together. So that is a paint skin dream catcher. I'll just put him on there. So I just want to say a huge thank you guys for subscribing, watching, liking, commenting. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you for using my Amazon links. They help me out greatly, and there's no extra cost to you. So thank you so much, and I hope you guys have fun creating.